Hello, my name is Ahmad Wasbaz, and this is my report on assessing the influence of race and gender and grading disparities at the University of Minnesota. I conducted this report in light of the growing demands for recognizing social inequity that has been suffered by marginalized groups. In particular, race has been focused on in these past few years. The high financial cost of attending post-secondary education has put it in the spotlight. The University of Minnesota does take efforts currently to create equal opportunities for students. However, this report seeks to answer two things. Do students actually experience equal chances to succeed, and to what extent, if any, do race and gender influence the way an instructor grades? The report, as I'll show later, focused on race for much of the background, as I hypothesize it most likely has a more significant effect than gender. I became interested in this topic thanks to the effort of 3 undergraduate students from the University of Minnesota, who created a website titled Go for Grades that showed the average GPA given by every instructor for every class. The results were shocking to me. Writing 1301, the required freshman writing course, saw average GPAs of as high as 3.99 and as low as 3.13. Studies have consistently shown that a higher GPA leads to higher salaries post-graduation. Essentially, students with teachers grading far worse than usual have unequal opportunities to succeed after graduation due to reasons out of their control. In regards to race, the University of Minnesota has tried to level the playing ground through 3 ways. The first is the Equity and Diversity Sources Institution, dedicated to undergraduate advisors. The second is the Survey on Racial Equity Training, assessing the university's current efforts to reduce racial inequity. And the third is the Office for Equity and Diversity, the department this report was specifically written for. My first step for the report was assessing student and faculty opinion on the matter. Are they concerned about race impacting the grades they receive? I decided to conduct a 4-question survey for students and interviewed Writing 1301 instructor, Professor Angela Volpe, to see if public opinion leaned towards any viewpoints. Unfortunately, I couldn't reach any conclusive results. Figure 1 is one of the questions asked, showing the wide variance in answers given by students, who could not seem to find common ground for any of the questions asked. Figure 2 shows Professor Volpe's thoughts on the matter, which also did not lean towards the University of Minnesota being primarily successful or unsuccessful in their efforts to create a more equitable campus. Due to this, I instead leaned towards using statistics to find an answer. I evaluated grades given by Writing 1301 instructors from summer 2017 to summer 2020. I did this because the data is publicly available and lets future studies attempt to replicate and verify my findings. Additionally, writing 1301 is required, and I believe assessing a writing course makes the most sense due to the higher chance of subjective grading compared to, say, a math course. In total, I examined 113 instructors. However, I came across a few limitations, and they mostly stem from my inability to verify every instructor's identity. As seen in Figure 3 for Kelly Martin, if I could not verify it, I left it as unknown and could not include them in statistical tests. That is why I recommend future reports prioritize their time to ensure their dataset is as accurate and complete as possible. To answer the question raised by this report, I decided to conduct 2 sample independent t-tests due to the nature of the data I obtained. I had to assess race and gender separately. I first examined if race has a statistically significant impact on grades given by instructors by comparing the groups white only and non-white only. I then examined gender by comparing the groups female only and male only. After finding the needed value to conduct a t-test, I reached a few key findings. First, Figure 4 shows the average GPA given by the 4 respective groups analyzed in this report, something I'll touch back on in the conclusion. Second, Figure 5 and 6 show the t-test I conducted, and both show statistical significance is present. That means race and gender both impact grading tendencies by Writing 1301 instructors. However, the larger t-value for the t-test analyzing race means that race has a larger significance than gender. That is arguably the largest takeaway from this report. Both race and gender impacted the average grade given by an instructor, with race being significantly more influential. Touching back on Figure 4, the data show that white and male instructors generally graded worse than non-white and female instructors. Although finding a reason for this is beyond the report's scope, I hypothesize that this could be due to the increasingly diverse student body population. Experts such as Professor Gershenson from Brookings found a mismatch in characteristics between instructors and students led to lower grades being given. In addition, his findings noted race played a larger role, confirming the findings of this report. In light of the information discussed, I prepared 3 recommendations. First, an increase in non-white instructors is essential. A major limitation of this report was my inability to identify instructors who were not white or Asian. Considering the University of Minnesota Twin Cities non-white student population is almost 40%, this comes as a drastic concern for their opportunities to have equal chances to succeed. It is critical more non-white instructors are hired to coincide with an increasingly diverse student body. My second recommendation is a continuation of my first. Assess current hiring and interviewing practices to determine if there are obstacles to preventing non-white instructors from being able to be hired. It's impossible to diversify universities' community of instructors if the way they hire them puts non-white instructors at a disadvantage. My last recommendation is for the university to prioritize and increase funding for their current efforts to create a non-biased grading system. In my interview with Professor Angelo Volpe, he noted that University of Minnesota has assisted him in experimenting with a labor-based grading system. Essentially, students are primarily graded on whether they completed certain tasks clearly outlined in the rubric. I argue that this should be standard practice in all courses and not just writing 1301 or other writing classes. There's no reason for such large variances for the same class to exist, and it's important the university continues its current efforts to create equal opportunities to succeed. Most importantly, however, despite the existence of grading disparities, I finished the report with strong optimism. The university has shown it cares about addressing inequity in the student body population, especially in regards to race. It's continued to promote equal educational outcomes as well. Overall, it is a problem we will be able to solve, hopefully, and one day we will be able to create an institution that is equal and accessible to all.